want the top. All my people right there in the back of the spot, I need the top.
Hi everyone, Sean here for the WorldCupNow.com, bringing you your Barclays Gameweek 5 Fantasy Premier League tips. Now, I had an original recording of this, and for some reason it didn't go through, so this will be the second run through, and it will be the best run through. Excuse me. Now, when I last spoke about, in my last video, it was Game Week 4, and it was just after the international break, so we had 2 weeks to kind of think about what we want to do with our fantasy team and how we're going to move forward with that. So decisions were kind of made when there wasn't really very much football going on in terms of the Premier League. There was international friendlies, some injuries happened and whatnot. So last weekend was kind of our first time to see these newly rejuvenated, newly acquired players, these new formations, these teams that have, a new kind of swagger, if you will, about them. So last week was kind of our first initial kind of, alright, this is what we'll see, but, there's still going to be some kinks to work out. So now we've had another week pass, and we're moving into Game Week 5, which will be starting on Saturday, and this would be kind of the confirmation of what we kind of saw last week, and that's why I said to you guys in my last video, if you can, try to watch as many highlights as you can. That way you'll be able to see these kind of new relationships kind of building, these new dynamics kind of forming. And they're happening in all of the teams. So to say that you're restricted by your budget, this year doesn't really kind of allow that excuse, really, because that's what it is, and it's an excuse. But this year, what I found is that, for me personally, back in the international game break, I kind of sat down and I thought, okay, what is going to be my strategy, my theory moving forward as we move into the winter months? For me personally, I change my kind of those theories based on the actual season, the actual temperature of the games and the surrounding season, not the actual season as a calendar year. So I'll basically go through 3 changes. I'll have the first third where it's a little bit warm and it goes to cool. Then I'll have the middle, which is cooler and warms up, and then I'll have the kind of spring to summer. So those are 3 different times when I change my theory of what I expect to happen. Now, it's only educated guesses. It's based on my experience, and never does it actually mean that just because I think something, will it come true. Trust me, if that had happened, I'd think a lot of good things for myself, and you guys too. So, for me personally though, when I had that time on the international break, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm seeing a lot of high value assets being brought into teams that are offensive minded. So a lot of strikers and a lot of forward kind of bombing into the box, midfielders, and a few playmakers. So to me, what that means is that fantasy managers, I should rephrase that, real managers, Premier League managers, are looking at their teams and they're thinking, okay, what do I need to do to get this team either in the top half of the table, and the top of the table, or to avoid relegation? And the majority of the managers are saying, I'm going to need more offense. So that's kind of a theme that I, as a fantasy manager, want to jump onto. I want to kind of emulate that. So that's why my formation, I've got 3 strikers, 4 midfielders, and 3 defenders. So really, in this first third of the season, I'm not really going for the clean sheets. If my defenders get them, that's great. If my defenders get offensive points, even better. What I'm going for as a fantasy manager, though, is I want to get as many assists and as many goals as I can. So I've also been listening to people who are in the chats and the forums, even in my local, my pinch grip Patriots leagues. And a lot of getting the kind of the vibe is that a lot of managers are seeing that as well too. So you're going to see formations like mine, a 3-4-3, or you're going to maybe even see 5 midfielders. I mean, we're spoiled for choice this season in terms of people we can bring in, and that's a result of the actual real managers bringing in those assets. So that's kind of something you want to emulate as a fantasy manager, and that's what I want to impart to you guys, whether you're new or you've been in the league for a long time. Just something to help you guys out. Obviously you always want to pay attention to fixtures as well. Pardon me. Leicester and West Ham are still going to be having good fixtures moving forward too, so look at assets on those two teams as well. So, that's kind of something that I want to impart. And I recommend that you don't make trades Saturday, Sunday, and if there's a game on Monday, you can maybe get away on Monday, but not until the game is over. Because I've seen instances, and I've had it happen to me too. I mean, your best bet is your best lesson learned is the lesson when you get burned. And that's what happens is you'll get caught up in the kind of the rambunctious, banter back and forth and watching games and all this stuff is happening, and hear other fantasy managers being like, oh, my guy got a goal and assist, and you're like, oh, who's that? Why isn't he on my team? And then you go and you bring him in your team, but then you've still got 4 or 5 players left to play Sunday, Monday. And then unfortunately something happens to one of them, and then you're stuck and you got to take a hit. I see that time and time again. And that kind of frenetic transfer kind of scenarios that happen, over the course of 38 weeks, that adds up. Take one transfer hit every week for 38 weeks, you're going to be down quite a number of points. And that can be the difference between being first and last in your league. There's leagues that are that tight. So that's why I kind of impart that, when you make your decisions, make them outside of the kind of the realm of watching the football. Make your decisions when you're kind of calm, collected. You're not being swayed by other people, and you're making your own decisions based on what you see. That way you can go into the games, have fun, kick yourself when your guys aren't doing too well, because every manager does it. You're not the only one who's being like, oh man, my guy didn't score, or you're not the only one who's like, yeah, my captain got a goal and assist. You're going to hear that from everybody. So hopefully you've been able to get something out of Gameweek 5's video. I wish you guys the best of luck, as I always do, and I will see you next Thursday for Gameweek 6. So enjoy the weekend, be safe, and I will see you then. Take care, everyone.